Hello, my name is AJ Goldsby. I'm a life master from Pensacola, Florida, and I wanted to bring you today a very interesting game. It's a miniature. It's one that I saw when I was roughly 9 or 10 years old, and just a really beautiful game. It left a tremendous impression on me. And in fact, this entire thing that I'm doing today has been spurred on by an email, and also a fan of mine basically contacted me. He sent me some personal messages on chess.com and also sent me an email. But basically, he said, he'd seen my list on my webpage, and he had seen my list, the 10 greatest miniatures of all time. And basically, his question was, yeah, those miniatures, but what is your favorite miniature? And I've actually been thinking, this was actually a couple of days ago, but actually closer to a week. I've been thinking about this for several days now. And, at first I was totally stumped. I really could not come up with one miniature that I said, okay, this is my absolute favorite. I mean, you could probably pick any one off the top 10, and I'd say that's a really tremendous miniature, but I'm not sure if it would be my favorite. But I decided to go with this particular one and decided I would just briefly show you this game, make a video of it, and making a blog on this too. But I wanted to make a video and show it might be one of my favorite miniatures of all time. Of course, a lot had to do with it, having seen it at an early age. I saw some of Morphy's games at a very early age, but I saw this when I was about 9 or 10 years old. The Pensacola Chess Club many years ago, this was like back in the 60s, long before we met at PJC, which was Pensacola Junior College, but that was much later in the 70s. But for many years, we met in two places, in a restaurant and also in the USO. And the USO had several different locations. It met in a very historic site called the San Carlos Hotel. That building no longer exists. It was torn down a number of years ago, and today there's a federal courthouse at the site where the San Carlos Hotel used to exist at the corner of Garden Street and Palafox. And the USO moved around quite a bit. It was at the San Carlos. It was in different locations. We met in the basement of, I think it was a lawyer's building at one time. We also met in the train station upstairs in over the train station, the old train station, and that building before that building was abandoned. So the USO moved around quite a bit, but the other location there was a restaurant. It's not there today, but what had happened is a restaurant had a terrible fire, and part of the building was demolished, and they wound up renovating it. But they basically cut the buildings in half, and they made two separate buildings out of it. And the other building, the one in back, wasn't completely redone like the front building was, and it was basically just used as a room. And I remembered I don't think it had any heat or air conditioning. It was very hot during the summer and very cold during the winter, and you could literally still see the burn marks from the fire on the side of the building. They didn't bother even painting it. They basically, I think they just pressure washed it, and they, ripped a lot of stuff out, but you literally still see burn marks on the walls. There was one wall, I think it was a brick wall, and you still see the burn marks from the fire on the building. So anyway, without any further ado, I wanted to show you this game. This is a very famous game of chess. It was played between Richard Reti and Jose Real Capablanca. It was played in the Berlin tournament in the Chess Congress, Tageblatt, in 1928. Without any further ado, we're going to go ahead and take a look at this. And I'm going to call this probably one of my favorite. When I had to think about it, it'd easily be in my top 5 of my favorite miniatures of all time. Kappa is black, Reti is white. It starts off e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5. Of course, this is the Ruy Lopez or the Spanish, whichever you prefer. d6, that's the Steinitz variation. c3, that's a very good move. It hits the center and prepares d4, grabbing a lot of the center. And just a very solid move there. a6, that's a good move there. Bishop a4. Now black plays, Capablanca plays f5. Morphy was fond of that move, although he didn't play this particular version of it. He would play basically the straight up Schliemann. But this is basically what I think they call a Schliemann deferred, or delayed, whatever you want to call it. But it's a form of the Schliemann defense to the Ruy Lopez. Very complicated. A lot of grandmasters today in this position will play a move like d3. The computer says the very best move for white is e takes f5. Anyway, white played d4. Black, and this is another nice thing about this game. I used to have a book. It I don't have it anymore. I lost it many years ago. I'm not sure what happened to it, but it was a descriptive notation. It was like the 30 or 50 best games of Capablanca. I don't even remember who the author was, and it was descriptive notation. I didn't even have the cover of the book. The cover had been ripped off, and it was in bad shape. It was falling apart, but I was very impressed by that book. Somebody gave it to me. I had it. I lost it sometime in the early 70s, middle 70s, and so it's been a long time since I've seen that book. But that was one of my favorite books, and this game was in that book, and it just made a tremendous impression on me. One of the things that was interesting about that book was the mislabeling of the annotations. Of course, today you can fire up a chess engine, and you can, the disputes about whether a move is good or bad is rendered totally, you know, not important, because the chess engine, you fire up your favorite chess engine, and within just a few minutes you can determine whether or not a move is good or bad. So that's the thing about that. But this game was in that book, and I looked at it many times too when I was a teenager, and even younger than that. So anyway, F takes E4 exclam. You can give every one of Capablanca's moves either an exclam or double exclam for the rest of the game. Knight G5, that's an interesting game. Another line here was knight takes E5, D takes, bishop takes check, B takes C6, queen H5, and I would label that position unclear. I found one line by very sensible moves. Basically, white can get a draw by perpetual check. But in the actual game, white played knight G5, E takes D4 exclam, knight takes E4. Of course, the computer says I think best is castles, and then D5 gives black a slight advantage. But anyway, knight takes E4, knight F6 exclam. That's a good move. A much more complicated move is also bishop F5. But that leads to some really torturous lines. If I wanted to explore these, I could show you some really fascinating stuff, but I'd get off into a tangent, and I could literally probably spend an hour just looking at some of these lines that I found with the computer yesterday and the day before. But we're just going to try to keep this video relatively simple and short. And anyway, capital plays knight F6. I give that an exclam because it's simple, it's straightforward, it's attacking the center and developing knight. Bishop G5. That's not terrible. I remember one author said that was a bad move. I think it was in Chess Base version of this game. He gave it I think he even gave it either a dubious or a question mark. But it's not as bad as all that. In fact, it just barely gives black a tiny advantage, if that. Recommended is knight takes F6, queen takes F6, castles bishop E7. And I call that unclear. If white wants to, he can play bishop takes knight check, pawn takes, and pawn takes pawn, or queen takes pawn, and regain the pawn. But anyway, in the actual game, Capel played knight F6 exclam, bishop G5, bishop E7 exclam. That's an interesting move. Also very interesting was bishop F5, knight G3, queen E7 check, king F1, and then bishop back to D7. And that's just a tiny edge for black. But I like bishop E7 because it sets a tiny trap there, and kind of invites Reti to do something he was known to do. Now, did Capablanca do this on purpose, knowing Reti's tendencies, or did he just do it? Maybe it was something that was buried in the subconscious. Whatever. But for whatever reason, he played bishop E7, and now Reti was known to bring out his queen out early, and he plays queen takes D4. In the book that I used to have that I was telling you about earlier, the author there, I don't remember which one it was, he gave that move an exclam. Give it a question mark, okay? I mean, it's very bad. You can give it at least a dubious, and to be honest, it deserves a full question mark because it is not a good move. In fact, all the engines immediately shift to basically black is winning. He has a big advantage, or black is winning. So the move is not good at all. In fact, it's very bad. So anyway, queen takes D4. Better was simply just bishop takes F6, knight takes F6 check, queen takes F6, castles, and we're right back to the position we reached earlier in analysis of white wishes he can take here and retake on D4. But anyway, queen takes D4. That was after bishop E7, queen takes D4. That's what Richard Reti actually played there. I think some people say Reti or Reti or Rete. I've heard it pronounced many different ways. Most Americans say Richard Reti or Reti. Reti took with the queen there. That's extremely bad. Kappa again, he plays B5 exclam. There were several different moves there, but that's easily the best there. Bishop D7 was also a possibility, as was queen D7, but B5 is easily the best of all those moves. White plays knight takes F6. He could have also played queen E3, knight takes E4. Queen takes e4, d5, bishop takes e7, queen takes e7, queen a5, b takes a4, but black is winning easily there because he has an extra piece. If you don't believe me, fire up your own engine and check it out. But anyway, here after queen takes d4, question mark, Kappa plays b5, exclam. Knight takes f6, and now Kappa plays g takes f6. I give this move an exclam, and it's one of the first moves of the engines too, but I like it a lot simply because when you're a beginner, you're taught never separate your pawns. You know, those kind of things. Don't break your pawns up into multiple groups. And here Capablanca does that. Now, an alternative there was bishop takes f6, takes. Knight takes d4, bishop takes d8, b takes a4, and black is clearly better, but it's no longer a forced win. After knight takes f6 check, the really nice thing is that after g takes f6 exclam, you see there that Kappa sees instantly all these squares, and I'm sure he was aware of every one of those, and especially this open G file is going to be a potential force for black. And watch how cleverly he uses that open file. So anyway, knight takes f6, g takes f6, exclam. Busting up the pawns. Queen d5. Of course, you can't save either bishop because the queen's hanging. So queen d5 attacking there. Now b takes a4. That's a really nice move. I do want to point out something here, that if f takes g5 there, then you simply have bishop at d1, and now black has to worry about this bishop h5 check, and also the knight is hanging. So that's not good at all. But basically, you know, in fact, if you play something like bishop b7, black might get a perpetual check in some lines. So anyway, after queen d5, he plays b takes a4. You definitely want to eliminate that dangerous light squared bishop because of the weak squares, you know, that diagonal there and the weak squares, light squares that are around the black king. So b takes a4. And now Reti plays bishop h6, exclam. The alternative was to play queen c6 check, bishop d7, queen f3, f takes g5, white castles kingside, and then rook b8. That gives basically black an overwhelming game. I mean, he's up a piece. It's going to be hard to get the king to shelter. It's not going to happen easily or quickly, but there are ideas there for black. For example, rook b5, rook f5, and this castle kingside. So, and I found, to be honest, I didn't find all these things on my own. I spent many hours with several different computer programs. So anyway, after b takes a4, Reti plays the only practical chances, and that's 13 bishop h6, exclam. Now here there was a very nice trap. A lot of my students have fallen into this trap, and I'm going to go ahead and show that to you. What about just the simple bishop b7? Because, you know, that's putting the bishop on the long diagonal, and then you're getting ready to castle. Well, that's an inaccuracy. And here's why. Queen check, king d7 check, king e8 check. There's the only two squares you can go to, king d7, queen f5 check, and that's the draw by perpetual check or 3-time repetition or whatever you want to call it. Basically, it's a perpetual check because white can continue checking the black king until the sun burns out. You know, the king only has 2 squares that it can go to. So that's a draw. But anyway, so the correct move there after bishop a6 is to play queen d7. And that's the reason why. And the big reason is that now if the queen checks on h5, the black king can escape to d8. So that's a very fine move. Give that an exclam. That's fully worthy of an exclam. A lot of really strong players, expert level players, when I've shown them this game, have not found that resource for black. So anyway, queen d7 exclam, white castles, which is really basically the only really good possibility there. And now bishop b7 double exclam. Well, why was that so good? Well, because there were many different alternatives here. One of the biggest ones is rook b8, which is a move I like because it puts this rook on this here, gets rid of the pin, and now you're threatening rook takes pawn. But bishop b7 really is a double exclam because it sets up a marvelous trap. And basically you have to see the end of the game to understand why bishop b7 was simply so strong there. But anyway, white plays after 14 bishop b7, white plays bishop g7 threatening the rook, and black castles queenside. Again, that's a double exclam. Why is that a double exclam? Well, there's a lot of different alternatives there. I don't want to spend too much time. One of them is a3, which is kind of sneaky because now bishop takes rook, question mark, pawn on a3 takes the pawn on b2, and then the rook's going to go, basically white's going to lose material. But there's lots of different variations there. I didn't want to show them all to you, just show you a couple of possibilities. But after bishop g7, black plays castles queenside or triple ought or castles on the queen side, double exclamation point. Bishop takes h8. White may as well play that. The alternatives go queen h5 or hg8, bishop h6, knight d4, and now if g3, just simply knight f3 check, winning for black. So up and away after castle's queenside double exclam, bishop takes h8 was white's only real try there, his only real move other than maybe resignation. Now I'm going to pause the video. In a second, I'm going to pause the video. What I'd like you to do is take about 5 or 10 minutes, or take as long as you like, because you can pause the video as well. That's what you need to do, is also pause the video, because it'll resume instantly otherwise. But go ahead and pause the video and just take a few minutes and try to figure out what's going to try to predict the course of this game. Okay, go ahead and do that now. Okay, did you do like I asked? Did you pause the video? Well, basically, what do you think black should play here? Most of my students here want to play either rook g8 on the open file or rook takes h8. Kappa's not doing any of that. He plays knight e5 double exclamation point. Doesn't even bother retaking, and it also hits the white queen. White has to play queen d1. If he doesn't want to play queen d1, the other alternative is queen takes b7 check, king takes, bishop g7, rook g8, bishop h6, queen h3, and basically white's getting mated there. So that's just horrible. So after knight e5, white plays queen d1. Once more, if you want to, I'm going to stop talking for just a second here. Go ahead and pause the video. Okay, did you do like I asked? Did you pause the video and try to guess black's next move? Again, a lot of my students want to play moves like rook g8, which is a good move, rook takes h8, which is a fair move, but the move that, and also even knight f3 check in some lines, might actually, carry the day for black, because there's a lot of threats there for him. But what Kappa did, and also, let's say, I don't know, any move, a5 here, then white would play f3, and basically any chance of an attack or what black winning may go out the window. So the key here is to prevent f3 or f4, and that's what Kappa does with the most forcing move. He plays bishop f3 double exclamation point. Also good there was rook g8. I think that's second best for the computer, and it also still wins for black. Black is winning easily there. But Kappa, after queen d1, plays bishop f3 double exclam. Just a brilliant, brilliant move. And Reti here goes ahead and takes. He plays, pawn takes bishop on f3. The alternative was go knight d2, bishop takes d1, rook ra d1, rook takes h8. And here white can just resign. He's down he's knight for knight, bishop for one rook, or rook for rook. And so white's got a rook, black's got a bishop, but black also has an extra queen. So that's 100% resignable. I don't know of anybody who would want to play that position on as white. So anyway, he played g takes f3. Now we have one more good move. It's not a double exclam, but it's still very nice. And I'll give you a second. I'll go ahead and stop talking. You can pause the video and see if you can guess black's last move. Okay, did you pause the video? If you did, were you able to correctly guess black's next move? A lot of my students want to look at check here. They also want to look at rook takes h8. Check is a very strong move there, but the best move is the one that Kappa played, which is queen h3 here. And now there's threats of check, and knight takes f3, and basically here, white here resigned. He threw the towel in. The reason white resigned is, let's analyze the line that I found with the computer. Queen h3, queen d5, c6, queen e4, rook g8 check. And here, white's going to get mated in just a few more moves. He basically has to play giveaway, but at the end of the day, it's going to be after he throws his queen and bishop away, then like queen g2 is mate. And also I want to show you one other thing. After g takes f3, look at this. Look at all those squares. I mean, after queen h3, you can see the nexus of the fulcrum. The knight's hitting here, the queen's hitting there, the queen's hitting the rook on f1, rook g8, coming to the open file, would check is threatened, knight takes f3, like if queen d2, knight takes f3 is mate. So it's incredible. Like one of my students suggested, we looked at this game together online the other day, and a student, he's about a class C player, he wanted to play queen takes a4 for white, but then just knight takes f3 is mate right on the spot. So anyway, it's just amazing to see that, and it shows you just basically how bad, and how great all black's threats were. And it's a really amazing game. And what's really amazing is that you can literally give, after about move 5, you can literally give every one of Capablanca's moves an exclamation point. And starting from, say, move 14, 15, 16, and 17 are all double exclams. So you got 4 double exclams in a row. So that's quite an achievement. It might be Capablanca is one of his most beautiful games, certainly one of his prettiest miniatures. And I would have to pick this as, having seen it as a very young person, really just a child when I saw it the first time. If I had to pick my very favorite miniature of all time, and I'm a big fan of Morphe, and I can show you many pretty games of Morphe, but if I had to pick my very favorite miniature of all time, I guess this would have to be it. Well, that's it for my video. Thank you for watching it. And if you enjoyed my video, please make a contribution to my PayPal account. It's, the PayPal website, www.paypal.com. And you access my account by using my email, which is LifeMasterAJ@yahoo.com. Thanks for watching and have a great day.